If anyone has seen my review of Chloe, they might remember that I called Ararat Atom Egoyan's masterpiece. I think some context is needed at this point. Ararat was the first Atom Egoyan film I ever watched. I was a teenager at the time, not really sure what kind of film it was going to be, and I was kind of surprised by the film. I really liked it, and it introduced me to actors whose names I'd later learn as I watched more movies. As much as I liked the film, though, I was a bit confused about it, and I didn't see another Atom Egoyan film for a long time afterwards. I certainly read up a lot about his filmography, but it was several years until I finally saw another Atom Egoyan film. I ended up watching Where the Truth Lies, and then Chloe. At the point of my reviewing Chloe on YouTube, I hadn't seen Egoyan's most celebrated works, and I didn't understand his style as well as I thought I did. A lot of that has changed since then. Having seen most of Egoyan's feature-length movies now, I figure it's time to go back to Ararat, and look at it now as a more mature person. This is a very personal film for Egoyan, due to his Armenian background. It concerns a forgotten part of history, where the Turks were supposedly responsible for the murder of more than 1 million Armenians. It isn't often questioned or discussed, but Turkey to this day has denied the atrocities. As he had done several times before, Egoyan assembled an impressive cast for this film, chiefly Canadian or somewhat Armenian in background. Now, when I saw this for the first time, I was astonished at the depth of the story. And having seen most of his other films now, this movie truly is the labyrinth of them all. Even summarizing the film takes a long time, but I'll try. We get a film being made about this forgotten chapter of history, so the flashbacks into that history are most often accompanied by a film crew hiding behind cameras, capturing everything. We have the screenwriter, played by Armenian-American Eric Bogosian, the director, played by French-Armenian legendary singer Charles Aznavour, and the star of the film within a film, played by Canadian Bruce Greenwood. Confused? I've barely gotten started. These three are assisted by an art historian played by Egoyan's wife, Arsene Khanjan. She's also of Armenian descent, and her character is fascinated by an Armenian painter who survived the genocide as a child. The art historian has a son named Rafi, but also has a stepdaughter through a second marriage that ended in the girl's father possibly killing himself. The daughter has since become obsessed with her father's death, blaming her stepmother for it. Oh, and she's also sleeping with Rafi. Try not to let that throw you off the film. It's technically not incest. Anyway, Rafi gets involved in the production of the film, and has a conflict with one of the actors in the film. This is Canadian actor Elias Koteas, playing the Turkish actor who plays a Turkish authority most responsible for the genocide. Rafi also has a second storyline where he's interrogated at an airport by Canadian legend Christopher Plummer, whose character is one day from retirement. Plummer's son is a curator at the museum where the art historian lectures, and he's also in a homosexual relationship with Koteas' character. And in the middle of all this, we get flashes of the Armenian painter in his retreat, remembering the horrors of his survival, and painting the famous picture that routinely gets mentioned in the film and analyzed. So, that's a summary of all the storylines going on. This movie is literally dealing with 6 or 7 plots in seemingly no real order. Roger Ebert, for one, called this storyline too much and an overkill in terms of intricate connections and storylines. And having just given you a brief outline of all the connections throughout the film, I don't blame him for saying that. But it's not impossible to comprehend. Watching it and sitting through it is easier than it sounds. And even then, sometimes films need to be seen twice to fully understand and appreciate them. It certainly worked that way in my case. For all his love for labyrinthian plot, Egoyan still manages to connect everything. Throughout the film, we get recurring themes in all the storylines. Things such as how we remember the past, how a certain point of view changes everything about our view of history. The Armenian director and screenwriter criticize the Turks for altering history through their denial, but then go out and alter some facts in the film in the name of artistic license. And considering that this is a film within a film, does that mean Egoyan is criticizing himself? The complexities are almost smothering, and it's easy to get lost in the subtext, but for the most part, I think one could be able to get through the film and appreciate the effort that Egoyan went through to make this movie possible. Say what you will about this movie, it has a lot going on and a lot of interesting moments between the characters. The genocide itself is frequently discussed and sometimes displayed in graphic violence. And we gradually get an idea of how the events played out. But we need to take these characters' words for it. We have no way of knowing for sure the extent of the killings, which is ultimately a point the filmmakers are making about how we view history. Atom Egoyan clearly has a lot to say about the matter of this forgotten history. The story is as fragmented as the history itself. We get scenes that are supposedly real flashbacks, and other scenes just as vivid that turn out to be the movie within a movie. We get a lot of philosophizing about the subject matter, and a lot of opinions clash. As much as it is a classic Atom Egoyan movie, it also feels like a real examination of history. So while Ararat might not be his best film, it's definitely his most complex and challenging film.